Hi, everybody. This is Chris Bonney with Gulo Solutions, and this is Web Marketing Insights Podcast. Today, we have with us, as always, Zach Wilson, founder and CTO of Gulo. And we have a very special guest today, Sara Fay from First American Healthcare Finance. Sara, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
It's really our pleasure. So, Zach, today we are going to talk about digital marketing and how First American does it. Sara's going to give us some insights on what she's going to continue to do, start doing, stop doing, all of that kind of stuff. Did you want to talk any more as a setup for leading into today? And do we want to get our first questions over to Sara so we can learn more as quickly as possible?
Yeah, let's just let's hand it off to Sara to tell us a little bit about what she does, uh, and how they do it, and what they do as a company as well. So, Sara, tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm Sara Fay. I'm Vice President of Marketing at First American Healthcare Finance. My responsibilities are basically everything under the entire marketing spectrum. So that's our overall marketing strategy, content development, conferences and events, association relationships, all of our digital marketing, print, whatever. So that all falls under my responsibility. Um, and my company, First American, provides equipment financing and leasing for healthcare providers. So that can range anywhere from very small independent doctors groups all the way up to billion and billion-dollar health systems.
That's great. I don't know how you get any sleep. It doesn't sound like you have very much to do. Every single channel is covered with with your job. What do you what's your favorite channel for marketing? What do you love? What's in terms of what you do? What's your favorite one?
Um,
Content, video,
yeah, I
events?
mean, with my role, I've done a little bit of everything, and I think that's what's kind of neat about my role. I get to kind of dabble in a lot. I love events because I feel like those are the closest you can get to your customer and just provide a really unique experience. We do video really well. And digital is obviously probably the most important channel right now, but it's from my perspective also one of the hardest, just because it's very saturated, and even though it's important to get things online, it's also very competitive. And how do you get your content to the right people, kind of where
Yeah.
they are?
Yeah, yeah. We even as a small organization struggle with that as well, and I think it speaks to the thing that I thought was so captivating about learning a bit about you and what you guys are doing is that whether you're a 10-person organization like us or a massive organization like you guys and dealing with major multi-billion dollar budget hospitals with 7-8 figure budgets for buying equipment, that there's a lot there's a lot to do. And from a staff and resource perspective, it was interesting to hear how you guys tackle it too. So so I think what what would be captivating to people that are listening are probably like how you guys manage some of your channels, what channels are really great for you. You talked about video, how you guys using that. How are you using that to engage your customers, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, where that's taking them? Can you talk a
Sure.
little bit about that?
Um, so yeah, video at First American, it's a really important channel for us. We kind of have some core values based on being technology focused, industry focused. We have great people, great culture. So when we create videos, kind of all that comes together. We'll go out to our clients, actually get into their organization and film patients, film what they're doing, how the equipment is being used, kind of the financing side, why they decided to go with First American. And it just creates like a really, really neat story. Some of the more fun ones have been I've actually been able to go into surgeries and film like ophthalmology equipment being used to remove cataracts and stuff like that. And it just, I mean, I think the healthcare industry as a whole is really interesting because um, it's kind of very traditional in solving challenges with medical conditions, but it's also very like technologically advanced. And you need to have the right equipment and the right technology in place to give the patients the best care. Um, so I would say, long story short, like our videos actually turn out really, really well, and they're fun to watch. They tell the story well. But I would say, given that they're good content, like one of my struggles is now that we have these great videos, like what do you do with them? And we obviously house them on the website. We use them a bit for social. But our decision maker at a lot of our clients and prospects is a CFO at maybe a major hospital, and it's it's an audience or even an individual person that is highly sought out, and that's, I think that's the marketing like puzzle for me. Like I have some great content, but how do you get it like to the actual person that you want to watch it?
Yeah. And in the traditional sense too, it's, talking to your customer, CFO at a hospital, what affects their decision making? What are their, getting down to their real pains, right? And the empathy of the videos. The videos sound awesome from a case study standpoint and humanizing equipment financing, right? Like, bringing that to the operating room and showing the success of some of the implication that I'm sure some of those things can have in terms of buying equipment for hospitals and doing innovative cutting edge things and that. But not, that's not really a but it is. But like then it's really like the connection between that and your actual customer, who's the CFO, who's, I'm being stereotypical here, but in in their office just looking at spreadsheets and looking at the numbers of this, like how much of the story actually matters to a CFO. I'm not saying they're not human. Like I'm sure they, they want to see these successes play out, but really like what are their at their core of their decision making process. In terms of finding the company to give them, to write them that whatever check, however big those checks get. Can we get one of those checks? But yeah, so I don't, it's kind of interesting because we deal with this a lot too with our customers, and ultimately we're trying to find what that pain point is for the customer to help our clients connect with that customer and find and then the channels to really speak to them about those issues. And it's I mean, it's a big problem. We talked about it offline. From a email perspective, you guys, in terms of your email and how you're using that, you're unsure of the power of that because of the inundation of email and how competitive email is for those type of people, and whether or not they're even, as a CFO looking at email marketing from you guys, do you guys those type of questions? So where can you engage those type of customers in the different channels? So what have you guys found in talking to your customers, a sales team, I guess, talking to your sales team and them talking to customers? Where, I mean, what is the tipping point for those? Is it, it's the relationships, right? I mean, you guys have big sales teams that are out in the force touching those buyers.
Yeah, and actually not that big of a sales team. So we have 12 that cover the United States.
Oh, okay.
but it's a very sales driven organization, so they're always doing outbound efforts to try to reach our target customer. But I think one of the probably one of our biggest competitors and kind of what we're trying to overcome is just like change. So if a hospital CFO hasn't leased in the past or pays cash, or hasn't worked with us before, like in order to work with us, they have to do something differently. And then we have a very, very long sales cycle. And it's just trying to continue to reach them with kind of all aspects of our value prop, and just showing them that it would be worth it to kind of do something differently and do something they haven't done in the past, and just give us a chance and work with us.
So I think that's funny. We sort of stumbled onto the sales team. We
Yeah.
weren't actually going to talk about them, but it reminds me that from a marketing perspective, uh, part of your job is supporting sales, right? Like
Yes.
your job is to make their job easier, so that when they're doing their outbound, that they're doing their outbound further down the funnel, right? It's everything isn't cold, everything isn't ice cold. So what do you, in terms of that relationship, what do you guys do anything that you feel is like really successful or works really well, or that you think you need to work on in terms of like augmenting or helping your sales team, better uh, content marketing on the website, whether it's better inside sales or warmer leads to get to them? Can you talk about that in
Yeah.
the digital sense and that relationship?
Yeah. So I think one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of our salespeople have been in the seat for a long time, and there's really not that many hospitals and health systems like in the nation. So they know who their prospects
Sure.
are, and they keep calling on them throughout the year. So in marketing, it's kind of my job to keep things fresh and keep things relevant. And then I would say my role is almost like a two-step process, like first marketing internally to sales, getting them to understand what content I'm providing to them, uh, and then um, and then they in turn like pass it along to their prospects or whoever it might be relevant to. I think with that whole process, we're just trying to get better and better at kind of using data to like drive what topics we're doing and what would be relevant at that time of year. And I think we've gotten pretty good at it
Hmm.
from an internal standpoint. So looking at all the data that's within Salesforce and our CRM, and trying to get that to guide like some seasonality to our campaign topics. Uh, but an area I think we're still struggling with is external data. So kind of the unknown and what we don't
Sure.
have
Sure.
recorded in our database. So just like if there's a cold prospect that we've never talked to, we don't know anything about them, like how do we know what topics are interesting to them, kind of where they're going on the web, what their routine is for what they're searching for, stuff like that.
Right, right. Keyword, yeah, good. I mean, this is like deep dive industry specific keyword research, and it. I mean, today I got to imagine someone in this level too, whether it's the CFO or more likely probably someone is tasked with trying to find people that are, we need to buy an MRI machine, whatever. How can we do this? The CFO knows this, right? But
Yeah.
how does he get some qualified people in front of him? Either he's doing the homework or someone below him is tasked with doing the homework of building a short list to do that. So the question then
Yeah.
becomes is what are they looking for? So that would be, I don't know if you guys have done that, but that would be kind of interesting from a just surveying some of your existing relationships, you're talking about the CFOs, but are they shopping or tasking some of this shortlist stuff out? Is there someone under them that is doing the homework? I don't know, and doing that
Um,
research?
well, like from my perspective, I think it's a really like interesting role because they're not they're not on Google searching like how do I finance an MRI machine, and because they know it, and if the provider is credit worthy, they have a whole list of different financial services organizations that could help them out, or they could just pay cash. But I think the challenge with my role is that even though they're not like directly searching for how do I finance medical equipment, they are on Google searching for something. I mean, everybody uses Google right now. So um, kind of the challenge I have is trying to think about if I'm a CFO in that role. I know I'm not searching the basic like how do I finance this, but like what would I be searching for? Um, and I think that's where it gets like just like a little more sophisticated and kind of what are they interested in that they're just looking up from a day to day.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, there's certainly a level of sophistication and research there, but there's also being creative with what those people and their actual buying journey
Yeah,
or leasing journey looks like, financing journey looks like, and having these strategies and these tactics abstracted away from your day to day, right? Like we're all guilty of this in some way, of just getting into the grind of doing a newsletter or writing a content piece, but high level, what are we doing tactically to reach this goal, and what are the strategies that are in place to bring us to this goal, and this multi-channel you've got these multi-channel efforts, but how do these all actually talk back up to our top
yeah,
level goal and match back up to our top level goal? And that's kind of some, I mean, for small organizations and even larger organizations, people get lost in that. We're doing quite a few of those right now, with people are just like, I mean, we've got a client right now, they've got, I don't know, they've got like 5 people on their marketing team. They've got an entire marketing team, and they don't know what, I mean, they're just doing all this stuff all in these different lanes, and it's not all coming together, matching up to the top level goal, whatever the top level goal is. And so it's kind of stepping in and saying, maybe that sort of CMO role, but shaping a vision, shaping a strategy, just so that
Yeah.
they can have these ideas to mandate to, hey, email team, here's what we're trying to do,
yeah,
match this back up. Hey, social team. Hey, content team. Hey, video team. Hey, podcast team. This example that I'm talking about has all of those channels, and they
yeah,
have teams in all of those channels, but they're all doing different things. They're all sending different messages, and they've got like 4 audiences, and they don't even know like who they have no strategy of who they're talking to and how they're talking to those people. And ultimately, that that's really important, because like you're talking about too is the CMOs. What is their user journey look like? Where are they? Where are they consuming? Where are they getting this impression? I mean, I'm guessing you guys go to, I don't know, you showed me your event calendar this year. You're at like something ridiculous, like 30 association trade shows this year. And so your place in the marketplace, from an awareness perspective and visibility perspective, is, I'm guessing, has got to be pretty high, right? Like, is it,
yeah. Um,
I mean, is there anyone that's more visible in your space, specifically your
um,
healthcare space, than you guys, or no?
well, I mean, there's bigger banks, and we're owned by a large bank. We're owned by City National, which is owned by RBC, which is
Oh,
banking for you. but we're about a 250 person company, so we operate independently. I would say specifically in the healthcare space, there probably is no other competitor of ours that is as visible and as out there in the industry. Um, and that's why I like events and I like conferences, because at least you know, if you got there and talked to the person you wanted to talk to, like, you did it and you made that
Right.
connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know, I just think marketing, it's like a really neat role right now, because you have like that end of the spectrum where you did your job and you connected with a person, and you can walk away saying, I made the most I could out of that event. um, and then you have the whole digital side where, and I guess tools are getting better and better now, but it's more, I would say, of a mystery of if you actually did reach that person, and if you resonated with them, and then how many times you have to reach them with a good message, and good content to get them remembering who you are, and then not only remembering, um, but letting you be part of the bidding process, and having
Yeah.
a seat at the table.
Yeah,
So
right,
Yeah.
right.
like a good conversation or a good experience, like you can walk away like just having confidence that was good. I mean,
Sure.
there's all kinds of data right now, like especially with email and digital. It's like, is it seven touch points before they even like start to remember who you are? And that has to be consistent. Who knows if that number is even accurate anymore? And it just like how many times do they have to see your company, through like their news feed on social, and then email, and then getting a phone call, and then direct mailer, or eventually getting to your website, and then I think even if you do get them to your website, like that has to be a really good experience too. So um, it just it's that balance between digital getting like harder and harder, but also more and more important. So it's never gonna be an easy job.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Hey, Sarah, quick question for you. Just switching gears a little bit to your
Yeah.
website specifically. So we've talked about sales and we've talked about events, and when it comes to your website and you send people there, what's the scenario by which you want someone to end up at your site? Um, and we can talk about how you get them there in a minute. But when people get there, what are the calls to action? What are the things that you're hoping someone that comes to your site actually does? What are there a couple calls to action? One specific thing you want people to do? Is it find information? What are
Yeah,
your call to actions?
I would say mainly find information. I've told both of you, we're in the process of redoing our website right now. I uh, I have some specifically to just request a quote for a project. I would say that's um, probably the call to action like tied most to like actually getting a seat at the table, and being able to bid on a project. But then um, I guess from my perspective, the goal of getting someone to my website is just to show our credibility, show that we're backed by a bank, and then give insight into all the different types of projects that we can finance for them. So
Yeah.
we don't just do medical equipment, but we do software, we do technology, renovations, expansions. So uh,
Gotcha.
yeah, like even if a person thinks they might be familiar with what they do, I think on the website having a lot of content that actually shows what we do, may open their eyes a little bit more.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Can you talk about search and how that affects how people end up at your site? Are you doing
Yeah.
SEO paid? What kind of things are you doing around driving people to your site?
Yeah. So I'd say that's an area we've kind of struggled with, just because, and I touched on this a little bit, but usually if you're a CFO at a hospital, you're kind of a more sophisticated buyer. You're not like Googling how to finance something. Um, the other side to that I forgot to mention is
Sure.
if someone's financing, like how do I finance a certain type of medical equipment? Like usually it's a consumer. So usually it's someone that needs help with their medical
Mm,
bills and needs
yeah,
to like doesn't have the insurance or doesn't have the finances. So if you take like the very obvious search terms, like that's not ever going to be who we're trying to reach. So
sure.
um I think that's why it's been really challenging for us. And again, like I said earlier, like I have no doubt in my mind that CFOs are using Google. It's just like what exactly like what are they
Right.
typing into
What?
it?
Yeah, no, that's the key,
Um
right?
and
You need
then
to,
yeah, I was gonna say with the way my role is designed, you jump into it for a little bit and you get interested in like trying to
yeah,
like figure it out for a while, but then you have like you still have to build your content and go to conferences and work with the sales teams and plan events. So you don't it's it's hard to carve out enough time that you need to actually like figure out what they're searching for.
yeah, yeah. And I think that is interesting too, because that's what we talk to some of our clients about too. That are in similar scenarios. It's they're doing something on there, and it might not even be related to what you do. It might be in some peripheral way, but if we can find a way to reach them there and
Yeah.
bring them over, right? And there's some, you need to make sure you're being relevant and there's some nuance to that approach, but that is the question that we're trying to ask the people that we're trying to sell to when they're thinking about things like us. Where are they going? It might not be the most intuitive keyword that you think of off
Right.
the cuff. It could be something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, just bringing that into the other the other channels too, which is if you're looking at things like social as well, finding things that actually pop off the page, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the whether it's whether it's the I mean, we talked about this too. I think offline was like the systematic approach and the balance of like the branded profiles on LinkedIn versus like the individual profiles. And we were struggling with this on Friday. It's like how things flow, right?
Right.
Like the utility of the branded profile, the brand on LinkedIn is so far down the list as compared to some of the other social sites, Facebook and Instagram specifically. And those have been propped up that the brand is number one. And I mean, we're struggling with this too in terms of just having some awareness at the brand level, right? Because that's I mean, you're B2B, we're B2B as well. So we're looking for those people that are on there. They're doing something, but it's where's it coming from? Is it coming from your sales team and their existing relationships and their existing connections, or is it coming from the brand? Like
Yeah.
who's following the company brand? Probably not a CFO, right? Like
Right.
they're not gonna be consuming that stuff directly. So it's like in social, how do you
Yeah.
actually reach those companies? So yeah, it's interesting and something we're struggling with too. So no matter how big you are, the LinkedIn struggle exists. Um, okay. Well, what anything else from your perspective, Sarah, that you want to just how you the one thing I wanted to bring back to was the last thing I want to touch on. You touched on, we didn't really flesh it out, was the which we've talked about before with 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 you offline, was and you mentioned today, was the seasonality aspect of what you do. Can you talk about that? And like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about winter, there's there's snow in the background of all the videos, or what are you guys doing? What's the season? What
Right.
are the seasonal aspects of your buying cycle?
Um, so this request actually came from my sales team, and like I create the marketing plan year after year, and they just said we really want more data influencing like the marketing campaign topics. And then so I think where I struggle a bit is like the external data, because I just don't have the bandwidth or the resources right now to get good, like easy to understand data that I can use for my marketing campaigns. But what I do have is access to really, really great internal data through Salesforce. Um, so this year, I did go in and I kind of mapped out like the months that we were winning on different types of projects. So I found March was kind of our month for medical equipment, where we were seeing the most opportunities. I found and I used kind of like a different theory for all my different campaigns. I just saw some success in the past from a commercial card campaign we did. So I said, why mess with something that has worked? And then I just mapped out trying to have some kind of data points to like validate why I was doing that particular campaign topic at that time of year.
Hmm.
And then so I think it's a good start. I think the internal data like that I used is fact, so it's coming from somewhere. And then what I tried to do a little bit more of is just get like external data. So we're partners with the American Hospital Association, so I got some reports from them. But it would be nice to kind of understand the buying cycle better of when different hospitals are purchasing different equipment and technology and software, and like why they're doing it at that time of year.
That I
Yeah.
think that's fascinating. That's really interesting. The seasonality aspect of it, and where that this wasn't exactly what the seasonality aspect, but where that data comes from is
Yeah.
there's this. I think there's this notion when you say the word data, that data has to be, this you have to pour through these millions and millions of record and come up with some elegant pie graph or bar graph to represent something, right? But I think you've taken that
Yeah. Right.
a step away from that and just almost went sort of anecdotal in terms of what
Yeah.
just looking at your purchasing cycles, what your customers are doing, and that's genius. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
It's really smart. So I think that's a great takeaway for people in general. Is you don't always have to have some website report or social trending report, but
Right.
look at your historical data, and when people are buying and what they're doing and when and why and how that matches up, and then try and make some marketing, do some marketing against that. And I
Yeah.
think this is something that we touch on every once in a while too, which is just try and which is I sometimes a struggle these days, is just just being creative and trying some different things, and
Right.
now you've done this and you can
Yeah.
try it and see how it works, and maybe you've stumbled on a whole new strategy
Right.
for the organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love that too, because I think a lot of times people overthink like using data. And
Hmm.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can just start small, like try something out and then like build momentum. So I mean, I don't think you have to plan for years and years and years to all of a sudden launch this like huge initiative. Like just start with a
Yeah.
small group or some small points, and then you can always build. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
That seems to be a recurring theme here, doesn't it, Zach? Just get in
Yes.
and just start,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it'll flesh itself out over time. Hey, want to just Zach or Sarah, give you each a chance before we wrap it up. Is there any closing things you want to say, Zach, before we do that?
No, just thank you to Sarah for setting aside the time to talk with us. I stumbled on some really interesting things, as we usually do. We always come into these things with this outline and roadmap, and then I look back at my questions and I ask one of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And we
And I
just
want to do one more thing.
unravel all this other stuff.
And yeah, and Sarah, I will see if you have anything else in closing you want to say, but I do also want to give the URL of your website. So it's First American Healthcare Finance. It's the acronym of that, FAHF.com. So that's where people can go check out your website and see what you're all about at the end of the day. So with that, Sarah, is there anything you'd like to say in closing before we wrap it up?
No, just thanks for having me. I mean, I thought we had a lot of really great conversation too. So it's just fun stuff to talk about. And yeah, definitely enjoyed being on.
Good. Well, we appreciate you being on. This is the Web Marketing Insights podcast from Google Solutions. Thanks for everyone to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you again real soon. If you want to hit the subscribe button below on YouTube, that would be great. Otherwise, we will catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for checking out the podcast today. Go to gulosolutions.com to learn more about us. Subscribe to our newsletter. Also, if you can hit subscribe on our channel here on YouTube, that would be great as well.